Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are still getting some, good people coming in. So let's wait for a few more minutes before we start the discussion. We have the guest Parul Sharma, who has already joined us here. She's raring to go with her images, and of course, Kaveree ma'am is also with us. We're just going to wait for a couple of minutes, get more people, because it's bang 12. Thank you so much for all those guys who came in a little early and showed that things will be punctual in India as well. And we'll just wait for a couple of more minutes and then we'll start. Thank you so much. I'll just take 2 more minutes to instruct everybody. Since it's a Zoom meeting, we'll keep everybody, all the guests who are here, apart from the core team, will be on silent mode and their video feed will be off. Any questions pertaining to this discussion are absolutely welcome. Please put them on the chat window. And once the session is near closure, Kaveree ma'am will actually pick up those questions and have a discussion with Parul and same. Thank you so much. Sit back and enjoy the session. We'll just start probably in the next 2 minutes or so. Thank you. Kaveree ma'am?
Yes.
So ladies and gentlemen, yeah, I'll just take 30 seconds to introduce both of you and then you guys can take off. So guys, we have gathered here. Thank you so much again for taking our time this afternoon. It's the 6th session under the banner of Tiffin Talks. We have with us the fine art photographer Parul Sharma, who has captured some amazing images during the lockdown phase of the capital. And in due course, she'll be having a conversation with Ace journalist and one of my favorite authors. One of her last books was one of my favorites, actually. No regrets. Been really a diehard fan of Kaveree Bamzai as well. She'll be having a very candid one-to-one chat with Parul, and Parul has clicked some thousands of images over the last few weeks of this unprecedented situation that we have gone through of the capital. But we'll discuss about 8 to 10 of them today in detail. And then, like I mentioned earlier, your questions are more than welcome. Please put them on the chat window and we'll take it forward. Over to you, Kaveree. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Pavan. Welcome everyone to Tiffin Talks and to Parul Sharma, who I think I've known for how many years now? 15 years now, Parul, in various avatars. And I think we met first when you were with Star TV and you had the quite unenviable task of selling Rupert Murdoch's idea to India. And we've come a long way since then. And what always struck me, Parul, was how hard you worked and how much you traveled, and you never shied away from going deep into places like the Uttar Pradesh smaller towns where really Star TV became so popular and there was a sort of renaissance in television viewing. So thank you so much. But today we're looking at you as in your photographer avatar, and I've really been looking at some of the amazing images that you've done of our urban landscapes, and something that is all around us and yet we don't notice, with the kind of ferocity that your phone camera actually captures. And We're here to talk about Delhi in particular, city that you know well, old as well as new. And let's talk a little first about your own relationship with the city, and then we'll start looking at the images that you've shot.
Hi Kaveree and hi everyone.
Yeah.
So Delhi, of course, Delhi has been my hometown. I was born here. I was educated. I mean, I went to college here, and for me, when lockdown happened, just to give you a context, I was born in Gold Market, just opposite Columbus School,
Right.
and in a very old sort of colonial bungalow. And my mother came from Old Delhi, Chabri Bazaar. So I was half Old Delhi and half New Delhi in that regard, always. And of course, grew up here, and so obviously I grew up watching a lot of Old and New Delhi, and somehow it left an imprint in my mind, which I never realized it was latent all this while. And when I became a photographer 3 years back, and when lockdown happened, buildings have always spoken to me. I've always had a dialogue with them. And when lockdown happened, I just thought to myself that it's important that I go and have a conversation with the architecture of the city. And actually, that's how it came about.
So shall we start looking at the images right away? By the way, we already have a question from my old friend Anil Vanwari, who says, talk to her about her style sense. She's the most stylish photographer in town. I'm sure you know Anil as well, of course.
Very well, very well. I've known almost for the same time as I've known you.
That's right.
Hi, Anil.
Yeah, so I don't know what he means by your style sense. Is it the way you shoot, or is it the way you look? Maybe he means a bit of both. We'll do that, Anil, shortly. We'll first start looking at the pictures. Manik, can we have the pictures right away? Yes. So talk to me about this, Parul. Where was this shot? And it's so typically Delhi, the ambassador car and talk a little about it.
Yes, so this is in the outer circle, and actually I'm standing towards the outer circle, and I'm looking at the peripheral part, where you have the small shot.
Yeah.
Where, and then I found this car parked there, and for me, this car is reminiscent of course, that jazz era. For me, there's something very savvy about it. And also if you look at the shadow play, I mean, I really love shadows, and I almost every. So for me, this was, and also we grew up, looking at Fiat, because at that point, all affluent homes used to have a Fiat, and Indians in a way have had.
This is the Fiat, right? I thought it was an ambassador. It's the Fiat. Okay.
And funnily enough, if it's not visible in the picture though, but next to the steering wheel, there is a small muda kept there on top of the. So I wonder what that. I have other images of those, but then this of course, Connaught Place, I think, is the most glamorous market in the world, and I love the whole idea of the inner circle and the outer circle, and the alleys in between. And when I just got there, I wanted to actually go towards the rear of the car and shoot the peripheral part of it, which actually connects you to the world city. If you go further down and you take the left, you go towards. But for me, this was all about the savage. And actually, this picture reminds me of, it could be just right post-independence, when India had started, like, sort of. And at that time there was a lot of Bauhaus, Art Deco. People had great taste, and and Fiat was so much in vogue. So there's something very romantic, something about the jazz era. Somehow that reminded me. That's why I just took this shot.
And Parul, you shoot with your phone, isn't that so?
Yes, I only shoot with my phone.
I
shoot with the camera.
How did that come about? Why did you choose the phone in particular?
So I think for all artists today, I think your phone for me is an extension of my hand and my eye, And I think art over the world are choosing mediums which they are most comfortable with.
Right.
If you see David Hawkins, the biggest artist of the century and even the last century, I mean, he has started drawing on his iPad. It is, people are giving up old mediums today, and it's also democratization of art to that extent. So I feel, and I always felt comfortable with the camera, a phone camera. And then, it was me, the whole idea of being able to pull the phone out of my bag spontaneously. It's spontaneity that always kind of appealed to me. And I think, I'm most comfortable with the camera of the phone.
And you made an interesting point, the democratization of art. You no longer have that highbrow, lowbrow divide. If you shoot with the phone, you're somehow less of a photographer than if you shoot with, a proper camera. So that's really a welcome change, isn't it?
I agree. In fact, you may know that I've been commissioned to do a book by Wishbox on Kolaba. In fact, I was in the midst of finishing that book. It's the narrative of Kolaba. But of course, because of lockdown, I had to put it on hold. And when I signed the book, I called a friend of mine who's a Pulitzer in photography. And I asked him, at that time, I was very tempted to kind of, as they call it, graduate to a camera. So I asked him, do you think I should, because I've signed, I think I should buy a camera, like a traditional camera? And he said, no, it doesn't matter, Parul. As long as the picture is good, that's what matters. When you take a good picture, nobody will ask you how it's taken, whether it's taken
Absolutely.
or it's from the most expensive camera.
Absolutely. Mani, can we have the next picture, please? Wow. So this is the Vasant Vihar flyover, right, Parul?
NH8. It's the beginning of NH8.
Yeah, and it's usually packed with cars, and here it's looking so very different, right?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. For me, I love lines and curves. So when I arrived here, I was all alone in my car driving and shooting. And I reached here and I just parked my car. There was nobody to stop me, nobody to tell me why have you parked. There was nobody. There was nobody here. And I just saw it bare and empty and almost with its solitude. And that struck me, because this is the bottleneck. This is the bottleneck which actually connects the rest of Delhi, all actually south, central, west, north, to the airport, to the international airport, and to Gurgaon.
Right.
So, and seeing this with its solitude is just kind of mesmerizing, and I just stopped there and took the shot.
And the curves are so seductive, aren't they? It's almost human.
Yes, and also this is the face.
Sorry, we just lost you there, Parul.
Parul, you're on mute. Please unmute
Parul, Parul, I think you're on mute.
Is it better? Is it okay?
Yes. Could you just repeat? We were just talking about the way it's curving. It's so sensuous and seductive.
Absolutely. And as I said, I love curves and lines. And so this was like that part. Because normally when you are here, always, you will never, notice this. I mean, you will notice then there'll be too many cars or,
exactly.
Too much. So I love the whole solitude aspect of it. This great solitude and great silence. And that's what it just struck me. And I got down from the car and I actually spent like 10 minutes taking various shots from here.
Yeah, it's lovely. Manik, next. It's very hypnotic, this picture. Wow. Where is this?
So this is actually on the flyover, which is the outer ring road actually. It's the I took the shot from outer ring road, the flyover, which connects you, Friends Colony towards Raj and Old Delhi. So I was sitting down there, and this was around 4:30, 4:35 in the afternoon, and it was a blazing sun. And I got down from the car to look down because this is one of the busiest roads.
Again,
because if you go straight down and turn right is Bahadur Shah Zafar Marg, where all the their houses are. And the building that you see on the left is Vikas Minar. It used to be actually one of the tallest buildings in the capital after and actually is a very significant big building because it is, in terms of architecture, modernist.
Yeah.
It came about in the late 50s. And it actually houses, it is the headquarter of DDA. And actually, if you see, post-independence, right from 50 till 70, was marked as an era of, mavericks like Habib Rahman.
Yeah.
And concept of Delhi modern, which was sort of envisioned by Pandit Nehru.
Right.
So a lot of buildings which were inspired by Bauhaus came about. But this particular one is actually is a brutalist, is part of the brutalist architecture. And if you see, it's very, very simplistic and it's very boxy.
Yeah.
Even if you see the STC building, their cottage industries is very similar. It's very boxed. So yeah. So actually, of course, and as I'm always fascinated by architecture, so I saw this, and then the play of light, the sun and the crossing, the way the sunlight is falling over it, it's almost like they're having a conversation without cars, without people.
Yeah, and that's something that Manik, can we have the next one? That's something that you really do value, Parul. You were talking about how essentially you're a very solitary person, and in a way, this allowed you to have a conversation with your city without the interference of people. So actually, perhaps you were made for the lockdown. Lockdown, and your work was made for the lockdown. This again is talk about it. I know what it is, but it's so amazing. It looks so different.
This is Jama Masjid in the background.
Yeah.
And on the right, the curvature that you see is actually right on the right side is Ivory Mart.
Yeah.
It's oldest jewelry shops of the capital. So basically, we know about Walled City. Every affluent family and everybody in Delhi actually was somehow a part of Old Delhi. And then, of course, they kind of, but this particular shop, I have had a great connect because, as I said, my mother comes from Kaveree Bazaar, Old Delhi. As a child, I sit in the rickshaw with my mother, and we would come up to Ivory Mart, and she would look and admire a lot of pieces of jewelry at this particular shop. Then we would make, like, I don't know, innumerous visits to look at the same piece of jewelry till she would buy it. And I would, she, as a child, I would sit next to her, but I was always looking at Jama Masjid.
Right.
And I was fascinated. And I always kept telling her, I want to go inside. Somehow, it just, I must have paid a visit once or twice with my father. But then I was fascinated with the whole idea of, men and women, burqa-clad women, and men in their beautiful kurta pajamas and chappals, walking in and out of the mosque. And I was so fascinated by it. So while she was looking at jewelry, I was busy looking at the mosque.
But you have a good relationship with jewelry as well. You wear some really stylish pieces.
I love jewelry. I mean, I love everything.
And really beautiful pieces. They may not be, always valuable, or they may be, I don't know. But it's just that they're beautiful and artistic. There's something very nice you're wearing today as well.
Oh, really? So do you, Kaveree. I always admire. And your jackets. I love them.
Yes. Manik, the next. Oh, this is such a beautiful picture. My God. This is the railway station, the New Delhi railway station, right? Yeah.
Yes. So, I was very keen to go to a place which is associated with crowds and a lot of sights, sounds. Right. And for me, the place that is always the busiest is, of course, you think of the station. And I wanted to shoot there, so I went and I parked my car. I wanted to go through the entry gate. And the police, obviously, they stopped me and they said, no, you are not allowed because everything is under lockdown. There's no way we will let you in.
Right.
And so I said, of course, I kind of maneuvered my way. I entered through the exit gate and I parked at a distance and I walked, I kind of sneaked in and where the tracks are.
Right.
I started walking, and the minute I entered, I arrived at platform number 10. And I was like, it was completely empty. There was no sight in terms of, there were no people, there was no sound. Well, normally there are announcements, there are, chai walas, there are people, there are children running around. And then, of course, I saw this trunk, which was just parked there. It's like it's a trunk which actually belongs to the railway guards. And a 50-year-old tradition apparently that they carry all essentials like a torch and blah 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 inside. I think it's beautiful. And yes, and that's the moment I had to capture. And while I was walking towards the trunk, I was actually kind of approached by a lot of dogs who actually live at the station. And they were pretty ferocious and they were pretty sort of, I was a little scared, but I kind of stopped there and they came, they sniffed me and then they left because they were all hungry.
Right.
So yeah.
They hadn't eaten, because someone or the other must have, usually fed them on at the railway station and they'd all left.
Yes, and it was frightening because nobody was visiting. They were not getting proper food, they were not for days or hours, I don't know, and it was pretty frightening. But they were kind to me later, and they left me alone.
Manik, the next picture, and we'll talk a little more about. You'd also told me that in a way, wherever you went, it looked like the dogs had taken over Delhi. The dogs and the wildlife, well, not so wild, but. And the people had sort of disappeared, and it looked as if the dogs owned the city. Talk a little about that. That's a very interesting sort of metaphor for a lot of things.
So the first day I went, the first day I ventured into the city. So I drove from my house and I crossed the diplomatic enclave, which is Chanakyapuri, and it was just, I cannot tell you that whole feeling of driving alone in a city where you normally see so many people, so many cars, but nobody, miles, there was nobody you could see. Right. It was a beautiful feeling, yet there was something very haunting about it. And then I drove past and I stopped by at the National Museum.
Right.
I stopped my car because there's a very beautiful building opposite the National Museum, which is the National Museum of Archives.
Yeah.
And I kind of captured the beautiful columns. The minute I got down from the car, there were 3 dogs who approached, and they kept wagging their tail. And one of them I shot actually. Then I went to CP again. I was encountered by dogs. So wherever I went, I taken over. The first day actually when I came back, I shot a lot of images and I showed it to my husband, and he said, why have you shot dogs? You're not out to shoot dogs. And I said, and they're so helpless. And I want to take food for them tomorrow. Fine, but you're not doing a series on dogs, Parul. Let me. But some of the shots which have, architecture as well as the dogs, I think they make great shots.
Yes, I know. I've seen one with that solitary dog. That's fabulous. This image, it is such a powerful image. Talk about this.
So this is an image which, after shooting, I was heading back home.
Yeah.
And actually, this image I took from my car. Shot this from my car.
Right.
And so normally, there is a lot of movement at this particular crossing. This is Vijay Chowk.
Yeah.
And of course, it's the seat of power. You see the south and the north block.
Right.
And present is the President House.
Yeah.
And it's the heart of the government. So
yeah.
basically, every finance ministry to defense.
External affairs, to home, everything is here.
Yeah. And Normally there's a constable here, and apparently you know the one who used to dance, right?
Yes, yes. When we were children, there was a dancing policeman here, and he would do all the traffic signs and these really funny, quirky dance moves. And as kids, we would be fascinated, and we would come only to watch him. But I think, Parul, here one of the things that struck me was this absolute absence of barriers and security, which is something that we associate with this
Yes,
part of town. So, in
yes,
a way, it either shows the absence of governance, or the fact that for once, the people who rule us felt that there was no threat because there were no people on the streets. So this has many levels. And in fact, Anil Banwari has just written that he loves the idea that there's a frame within a frame. That's a very interesting idea as well. Um,
absolutely.
so, uh, so what does this photograph mean to you?
So, I mean, I have been to, and I'm sure all of us have been to, you've seen the Elysee Palace in
Yeah,
Paris. You've seen Kremlin and Red Square,
yeah,
and 10 Downing Street, and of course the White House. But
yeah,
nowhere in the world, at least to my mind, I have
yeah,
seen the power of sea to be so at the vista that you see, and the scale
yeah,
and the that you notice is
yeah,
nowhere in the world I
right,
have this kind of grandeur. So I think
yeah,
that's the most. And the point that you raised, the absence of governance. No, the governance was there. I mean, if I would say that the way everything. I mean, there were officials working inside, but there was, there were car. If you go up, I went up there, and I also
yeah,
shot Russian closely.
right.
There were cars parked of government officials. So they were working.
Okay, okay,
But yes,
okay.
the usual, the movement and the crowds were missing, and that, and to my mind, this image could be like, for me, it's like a vintage print somehow.
Huh, yeah.
It reminds me of an era.
Post-independence.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
So yeah.
next one, Manik, the next picture. Again, India Gate, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
these crows that look like vultures.
So yeah, the crow. I love the play of the crows in it. But more than that, if you see the width, I mean, so normally you will never see this stretch empty like this ever.
Yeah, yeah,
Barricades. There are ice cream carts and all sort of things happening here. This is
yeah,
walked from right from President House to Vijay Chowk to India Gate. I walked. There was a barricade right in the beginning, right after Vijay Chowk.
right,
After that, the stretch was completely cordoned. But then I managed to
right.
kind of walk in from the corner, and I walked this whole stretch. And I cannot tell you, it was the best walk of
Yeah,
this year. And if you see the sheer beauty of the skies, the clear skies,
yeah.
because it was not polluted at all. The capital saw some really good weather during this time,
Beautiful.
and the play of the skies and the crows, and again the beauty of India Gate right in the backdrop. Normally people shoot India Gate, up close, and they show its grandeur.
Yeah,
But it was right in the, and of course it brings you so many memories of childhood. India Gate has
yes,
all place of romance, recreation, rest, and so yeah, all those memories kind of came back to me when we used to go to the lawns of India Gate on the weekends with the parents. And you remember there were pedal boats.
yes, of
Where
course. I remember those. It was a
it was
big
also
thing
romantic
to be
for a lot
taken
of
to them.
people. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure
And then later, of course, for romantic assignations, Parul.
I'm sure they are available for those pedal boats.
Manik, can we have the next picture? Oh, Khan Market, the Khan Market gang, Parul, of which you're an honorable member for sure.
Really? but not the Khan Market gang.
Yeah. So again, a wonderful image. I've never seen it so, empty.
Empty, yeah. And the toniest of Khan Market gang is missing. The goth is missing. The power dynamics are missing. There's so much missing from this frame, and
Right.
yeah, and that's the beauty of this frame, because normally this place is, and apparently they've opened Khan Market now, and apparently it's full again. I
Okay.
haven't, but a friend of mine crossed Khan Market the other day, and they said back to normal. But I hope they don't have to bring it back to lockdown if we don't follow everything particularly well.
Anil wants you to shoot Khan Market again with the people back in it. I think you'll do that.
But he has to commission me for that.
Anil, I hope you heard that. Manik, the next picture. Again, beautiful. Qutub Minar.
Absolutely. Again, this street, Kaveree, it's one of the busiest streets as well.
Yeah.
With all the boutiques and etc. But I stood, there's a small ledge here, and I stood on top of it, and I was trying to shoot, of course, Qutub Minar, and this bicycle kind of just passed my way, and I was struck. I mean, when I look at this picture, for me, this picture, which kind of, again, there's a lot of romance in it, because this could be right after independence.
Again.
When people like on their bicycle,
Yeah.
and the way he's clad
Yeah.
in a white kurta, and actually kind of riding in a hurry to kind of, as if he has to meet his beloved. And Mughal architecture standing, which has stood through times, and of course is timeless and has weathered so many,
Absolutely.
ravages of the time, is standing so beautifully.
So many empires falling, rising again.
And the kikar tree on the left that you see, I think, which is so synonymous to Delhi.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was just fascinated with this moment. I mean, I found it very beautiful.
It is gorgeous. The next one, Manik. There's something so tragic about it,
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. So I was walking down this outer circle.
Yeah.
And Connaught Place, of course, it's glorious.
Yeah.
Year, but especially more so during this time. And I chanced upon, there was nobody in Connaught Place except dogs. I just did not meet any. And while I was walking down, I chanced upon this, I think, this beggar who was, actually he was having a conversation with himself. Completely lost.
Right.
And kept talking to himself. So I sat down next to him, and I tried to sort of engage him in a conversation, but he just wouldn't look towards me, and he just kept talking to himself. And it also shows, I mean, there are some of the people, of course, homeless people who are on the streets, actually they were missing the absence of people, because they rely on on them for their living. Small that is given to them, to buy their daily essentials like bread and butter, but there was nobody there to help them, and he was completely lost. And it was actually a very, very sad, it was, I mean, I tried to make some conversation, but he wouldn't indulge in any, and of course, this frame has stuck to my mind. I mean, it's one of my most frames,
It's really haunting, and he probably didn't even know what had happened, He mustn't have known what the coronavirus is, why people are not there, And it shows how interdependent we are as a society. One sort of relationship falls and everything falls. It's like a domino effect. And you're right. I mean, he survives on the kindness of strangers, and suddenly there was nobody there. It's really a really tragic picture. Manik,
yeah, I mean, look his posture.
Yeah.
He's like,
it's just so defeated. Manik, can we have the next frame, please? Manik? Oh, this is just amazing. This is an aerial view, right, of Connaught Place. And where have you taken this from, you know?
This is the Statesman building.
Okay.
So I went on top.
Right.
It was very difficult to get entry, but I had to make my way. Somehow I convinced them, and I went on top. And this was like I have grown up seeing pictures of black and white prints of Connaught
Right.
Place, looking exactly like this.
Yeah.
And when I went on top, it was like I almost thought to myself, it's the time that my grandfather was working at this actually.
Mm.
He used to work for a company called Pyarelal and Sons.
Oh,
And actually, yes, in our home in Gold Market, we had prints of Delhi. And when I
right.
went top, Delhi stood still, and
Yeah.
the sense of desolation and hopelessness, but yet the beauty,
Yeah.
to my mind, the beauty is something that was so remarkable. And yeah, it's this aerial view, which I love these kind of aerial views. So I really kind of had to struggle to get on top there.
Yeah, but I think part of being a photographer is also how you negotiate your way to the perfect
Oh,
picture, isn't it?
absolutely. It's
Uh,
it's it's and more so it's somehow more difficult when you're carrying a phone. Now
yeah.
I tell any of them that I'm a photographer,
Uh,
they won't take you seriously because they'll look at you and say, "Where is the camera?"
right.
So in my case, it's always more difficult than the rest of them. I mean, for phone photographers, it's always slightly more difficult than others.
Yeah.
But yes, you. But when you have decided to do something, then you obviously find a way to
Right.
convince uh, the
So,
other person.
Parul, we've looked at the absence in Delhi, but you've also of late been shooting some of the suffering of people, the migrants, the inhabitants, and you've captured that really again very beautifully. I want you to discuss the next two images, and then we'll take a few questions from the audience. So, Manik, if we can have the next, yes, it's again, we feel terrible. Tell me
So
about, yeah.
this is a shelter home right opposite
Hmm.
AIMS, All India
Hmm.
Medical Sciences. And I was, of course, shooting and I saw this shelter home. And there was a hospital personnel parked right outside. There's another frame in which is obviously wearing a hazmat suit
Hmm.
and, dressed typically like what you see in a lot of images around, COVID-19. And it was a very scary sight because the minute you see somebody in a hazmat suit, A itself is a little
Yeah.
scary,
Yeah.
right? So I took my car and I walked towards the camp. I was actually very scared because you're always scared that you might, there's always a chance of catching
Of
the virus.
course.
So I approached the camp and I stood there and then there were almost like I think almost like a dozen people in this particular camp. It's
Right.
right on the road right next to on the so anyway
Yeah.
I was talking and then I found out that of course due to the pandemic AIMS had to shut its OPD. So these are people who have come, actually these are children who are accompanying the parents.
Oh,
This particular family is from
okay.
Bihar and they had come with their father and mother because the father needed a heart transplant.
Right.
Live in a village where it is not possible, and of course AIMS being the premier institute, they come for advice
Yeah.
and for treatment, and they have been obviously put on hold on a long wait because of lockdown,
Coronavirus. Yeah. The bigger
and they don't,
emergency. Yeah.
and they can't get back
Yeah.
because there's no way of
Right.
transportation at that particular point of time. So they are stuck, and they kind of relying on charity, etc. Institutions like NGOs for help. And and they looked very helpless. But the guy on the older brother had a
Yeah.
lot of grit and determination. I saw there was the younger one looked very helpless, and I spoke to them and the family for quite some time, and they were actually kind of really wanting to get back to their home, but they were like, they're caught here in the middle of all this. So it's
the
all
next two images. Sorry.
No, it's all right.
The next two images, Manik, can we see them? I think they're from GB Road. Is that so?
Yes,
the next
absolutely.
one as well, Manik. Yeah. Look at this woman's eyes, you know. Yeah.
Yes. So I was, I kept thinking about this whole idea. I really wanted to visit GB Road during the lockdown period, and it was one day. Then this thought kept coming and going, and then one afternoon I said, okay, I'm just gonna drive down there.
Right.
And I drove down. And normally, when I visited GB Road in the past as well.
Yeah.
And it's always very difficult to shoot there because you will never find the workers downstairs. They're always upstairs.
Right.
Quarters, and they are crowded. They're frequented by their customers, etc. So they're busy upstairs. You'll never find them downstairs. This is the first time I parked my car there, and I saw hundreds of them.
Yeah.
In the corridor, and they were very patient, and they kind of engaged with me in a conversation, and I told them what I was doing, and they were and they are going through a very hard time because they have to care for their families who are back in the village. Some have children, some have dependent members of families back in their villages or towns, and they have to but they are not frequented by
there's no work. Yeah.
So it's a catch-22 for them, how to themselves as well as fend for themselves. And there were really heartbreaking stories that they told me, and it was actually a catharsis of sorts to talk to them, about their lives and the hardships that they go through, especially in a time like this. It's very, very hard.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much material here for so many different exhibitions and books. There's really a problem of plenty that you're going to have when you look back at some of these images. I want to take a few quick questions, Parul. Anil asked, do you use external lenses with your phone, and how do you keep them clean? What lenses do you use? What phone? What resolution do you shoot at? And do you touch up your pictures? Do you shoot on manual mode? Do you use any special shooting software? Lots of questions.
That's fine. So I primarily shoot on Huawei P30 Pro, and I shoot on iPhone iPhone Pro. And Huawei has Leica lenses. So I do not use external lenses. And with iPhone as well, it has its own lenses. So yeah, I use those, and I do not touch my photographs too much because I am from the school of Henri Cartier-Bresson. I do not crop my images too much, and I do not play with them too much. I like a picture factual and the way it is. I don't crop much. I don't believe in visual Botox. That's what I was
That's a nice one. Okay, Puneet Gupta says these pictures are lovely and something which you don't get to see. In the years to come, they will go a long way. Composition is one thing which is very important in these pictures rather than thinking about which camera has been used. Would you agree with him?
Absolutely.
Right. Then Nitin Raj says, congratulations, you've conjured up such a stunning, eclectic set of frames. Do you plan on sharing them with the world? And like all good magicians, don't share your secrets.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, she is sharing them with the world, and hopefully, once the lockdown is lifted, there will be, an exhibition. Although I think that this is a great way to do a virtual exhibition as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was really like you walking us through the city as it has been through the lockdown. I really felt that I was walking beside you, I thought this was really quite fascinating.
In a trend set in this Kaveree.
Sorry?
You're the first one kind of, I don't know, I'm sure others are doing it or not, I'm not sure.
Yes.
But you've been trendsetters.
So you always have been, Parul. Parul, I want to, just before we leave, to ask you, okay, there's a question on Facebook. What's your favorite subject to photograph, and how would you describe your photography style?
I'm drawn mostly to architecture
Right.
and architectural elements, and so that is something that comes naturally to me. How would I describe my style? I would say that I am a purist.
Well said.
And a minimalist.
Well said. And Parul, before we go, I wanted to just, again, there's a question, sorry, you're very popular. Amazing picture, great job capturing the times during the pandemic. We pray for the unfortunate and hope for a better tomorrow for the human race. This is from Carla Maredai. I think she's a friend of yours, right? Parul, just before we leave, I want you to describe the picture behind you, because I know it's from a series yeah, in fact, Nitin Raj also wants to know what is the picture in the backdrop in the hues of green, because it's so stunning. Talk about that, and then, hopefully we'll get to see these images again in a book or in an exhibition.
Inshallah. So the picture behind me is actually of a step well in right on. It's taken in Jaipur. Actually, I was doing a project. It was an artist residency, and they were the whole the theme was water, and I was fascinated by the way the way the whole water preservation was done in the past.
Right.
And see these step wells. Although this picture I will try and show you. Can you see it?
Yeah.
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 So you see the steps. It's very, the architecturally, if you see it, it's like very contemporary.
Right.
In the architecture back then, it was very, very contemporary. And this picture is actually very poetic, because if you see, it's the reflection of the trees.
Yeah.
And this water, this thing was renovated, so you see those kind of elements there. But for me, it's very poetic, it's very lyrical, it's very calming. The whole effect of reflection of the trees in water, I think it's just calms me. And this is placed in my lounge where I spend a lot of time having my tea, coffee, reading, writing, or editing my photographs. So it's, and if you see, actually it's the size of the frame is almost 8 feet by 8 feet.
Yeah.
It has no noise. So even this whole myth that phone photographs cannot be blown into larger size is all a myth, because if you see, technology is such an enabler. You can blow these images into really large sizes, and it does not impact resolution at all. So yeah, this picture has been here for almost like 3 years now, 2.5 years.
It's wonderful. I really enjoy watching it. And in fact, Parul, I've been the lucky recipient of a picture you've given me of a step well, which is also in my drawing room, because it is so wonderful. It has that quality of sensuality, but also great calm, as you said. Thank you so much, Parul, for being with us, for patiently walking us through the images. It has really been a wonderful experience. I wish you all the best. Ruchin, can please the last word from you, and then we hope to meet you again with your next lot of pictures.
Thank you.
Absolutely, Parul. You truly are a fine art photographer, and it's just amazing the way you have captured our capital in its solitude. And thank you, Kaveree ma'am, for putting up this together and bringing a lot of things out from Parul. And so, guys, the recording of the series is available on our Tiffin Talks YouTube channel. Stay tuned. We have a lot more lined up with Tiffin Talks in the coming week. Thank you so much, Parul, for giving your time. It was wonderful having you.
Thank you, Parul. Thank you, Pavan. Thank you, Ruchin. See you guys. Bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you so much.
Bye.